Fall apart slow roast pork belly slices, the most beautiful buttery apple pieces, and unctuous thick sage and onion gravy. Am I looking forward to this? Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Archie Pye, this is my garden and this is Worcestershire. The sky is quite grey today, it's a bit dull. The chickens are out. They are constantly foraging for lots of different treats in the soil. That area there was full of weeds about 6 months ago. Now it's completely clear. Believe me, if you want to clear an area of weeds, get some chickens. As you can see, the garden's in a bit of a state. It's autumn here in the UK, fall if you're in the United States, and the garden is in need of a big maintenance session. But the chickens are happy. Everything is in order, and frankly, I want to get in the kitchen and cook this amazing dish that I've got in line for you today. Pork belly has to be one of the most celebrated cuts of pork in the world. In North Asia, they absolutely worship it. In Europe, we simply adore it. And my American friends, they turn it into bacon. And we all know how much Americans love bacon, don't we? So this is the pork belly I'm using. I'm leaving the rind on. The rind offers a lovely gelatinous texture, especially if you cook it slow and long. It just melts in your mouth. So let's crack on and look at the ingredients, shall we? We're going to need a huge quantity of sliced onions, lots of chopped fresh sage, some garlic. I need 2 lots of stock here. We need some beef stock for the onion gravy and some neutral stock for the pork, be it vegetable or chicken, it's entirely up to you. Some wholegrain mustard, some wonderful mace, salt, pepper, lots of apples, some butter and some olive oil. It's ever such a straightforward dish. The great thing about this is we don't need a lot of ingredients. Now, I want to just mention the pork. I'm using free-range pork in the UK. It's from a brilliant company called Packington. Everything I have for them is just amazing. Right then, pan on. So while the pan's getting warm, I'm going to use half my onions to form a bed in my roasting tin, along with half my chopped sage. Now I'm going to season my thick steaks or my thick slices of pork belly with salt, pepper and mace. Mace is a member of the nutmeg family. It's a whole spice, it's fabulous, and we love it with pork. So I'm going to pop some oil in my frying pan, get it nice and hot, rind side down, and I want to leave that pork there for at least 6 or 7 minutes. I want to get the rind as charred and as well cooked as possible. That's it, nice and brown, a lovely brown edge on that rind. And then we're just going to finish searing or sealing the pork well in the pan. Each batch of pork in the pan took me about 12 to 15 minutes because I want it nice and brown on every square millimetre of that pork. So once it's nice and brown and sealed or seared, then it's time to pop it in the roasting tin, sit it on the bed of onions and sage. And you'll notice that there's still quite a bit of fat left in that pan. That's there purely for us to seal or sear our second batch of pork. I know in the States they sear, and in the UK we say seal. So I'm trying to please everyone here by using both adjectives. So the second batch of pork, exactly the same as the first. Let's put the pork in the roasting tin. I think if I remember correctly, it fits perfectly. How about that? Just right. Lovely. There's about 10 thick slices there. I'm feeding probably 3 or 4 people here. I'm now going to just put about 1.5 inches of chicken stock. You can use veg stock, you can use anything you want. If you want to, you can just use water. And once I've put that in, I'm going to cover it with my aluminium foil, tin foil, and now we're going to braise it or slow roast it in the oven. In it goes. And while it's in there, we're going to make our amazing sage and onion gravy. The remainder of the onions, the garlic, the remainder of the sage all goes in the frying pan. And now we're just going to slowly cook that until it's all nicely caramelised. Once it's starting to brown, I'm going to put that to one side on a low heat, and then I'm going to melt some butter and throw in my apples. All my apple segments go in along with some sugar, about 2 tablespoons of regular white sugar, and this will take about 5 minutes. You just need to stand there and turn it over, turn it round until the apples, beautiful sweet apples, I'm using Braeburn apples by the way, or even Honeycrisp if you're in the States, Wait until they're nicely caramelised and just pop them to one side. And once they've got that lovely brown caramelised edge on them, they are ready. That is our garnish. It's going to be beautiful with this pork, I promise you. Our onions are pretty much ready. This has took about 12 to 15 minutes. They're nicely caramelised. I've got a little bit of char on some of the bits of onion and sage. That will give us an extra bit of flavour. So once the onions are done, set them to one side. Our pork belly slices are probably just about ready to come out of the oven. So this is stage 2 of cooking the pork belly. We need to transfer our slices onto a separate tray, and they should fit perfectly. There we are. Make sure you get them all on that tray. That's it. Squash them in. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take about 3 or 4 full tablespoons of the juice from my first roasting tin, and I'm just going to pop it on top of the pork. What we're going to do now is we're going to return the pork to the oven to give it some colour, get some nice brown crust on that pork. It may even slightly crisp up, but I want a little bit of juice to stop it catching on the bottom. That now goes back in the oven without the lid until it's nicely ready. And while it's cooking, we're going to make the onion gravy. Here we are. There are our wonderful concentrated blob of caramelised onions. I'm going to fish out the onions from the roasting tin. Absolutely fabulous. All the sage is in there, all the flavour of the pork, all the onion flavour. A couple of spoons of juice is in there as well. We're going to turn those onions on, get them sizzling. Once they're sizzling, I want to turn the heat off completely, throw in the flour, and with the heat off, mix the flour into your moist caramelised onion mixture. And keep mixing until the white of the flour is no longer visible. So this is basically, we're making a roux with onions contained in it. This is our paste. This will thicken our fabulous sage and onion gravy. So once that flour has been completely mixed in, I'm going to add another ingredient. And that ingredient is going to be the wholegrain mustard, a good heaped teaspoon of wholegrain mustard. Give that a brief mix in and then pop the heat back on a low flame, and let's start adding the liquid. Now the first lot of liquid we're adding is the residual juices from the roasting tin from round 1 of the pork. Add that, give it a mix. Eventually all the juices will incorporate themselves into our paste. Now we're going to add some beef stock, and we're going to add it gradually, a little bit at a time, whisking in between the additions. There we are. The rest of the stock goes in, whisking all the time to make sure there's no lumps, and eventually we will produce the most spectacular caramelised onion and sage gravy. I'm just going to put a bit of pepper and salt in to season, and I promise you that is amazing even on its own. It really is. A chunk of bread and a bowl of that, and I'm very, very happy indeed. You can see it's just completely perfect. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nobody could not like this gravy. Right then, let's get the pork out the oven. Oh my God, it's looking amazing. The colour, the wonderful brown crust it's given us, slightly brown on the edges, slightly crispy on the rind. Let's get it plated up, shall we? I'm going to just pop it on the plate. I'm going to show you 2 ways how to plate it. First of all, I'm going to obviously get it on that plate. Let's get about 3 slices on. The tray won't keep still, for goodness sake. A little bit of garnish of apples, those lovely caramelised sweet and buttery apples. Beautiful, look at that. And let's just put a couple of ladles of the thick, unctuous sage and onion gravy. And I'm just going to put it on the one end so we, oh, look at that. I got that angle perfect. The camera angle on that just makes me smile, really does. This is the other way of presenting them. Apples on the side, and just drizzle the sauce over the end and then garnish with the parsley. That is slow roast braised pork belly slices with the most amazing buttery apple garnish and a sage and caramelised onion gravy. I promise you, it's perfection. Hey everyone, don't forget to smash that like button, give us a thumbs up, works wonders with the algorithm. Subscribe too if you haven't already, and don't forget, please, if you cook this dish, I really want to know how you've gone on. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? And don't forget to tell your friends about Chef Archie Pie. I'm going to get stuck in, I'm absolutely starving.